Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is KarQ. Welcome to the KarKives, the KarQ Archives YouTube channel where I do VOD reviews and gameplay and tier list content, which has kind of been popping off. So, on the topic of tier lists, we have a request. I am a support main, of course. I play a lot of Ana, and today we'll focus specifically on Ana and talk about when to pick Ana, or not necessarily when to pick Ana, but what does Ana counter? What is neutral with Ana or against Ana, and what does Ana not counter? And basically, whatever's in this category should, in theory, be beating Ana. Now, obviously, Overwatch is a team game, 6 versus 6. Doesn't matter. You can still play Ana against enemies that quote-unquote counter her, or you don't counter them, because you have teammates to offset your weaknesses. But people just like looking at these tier lists just to give them a very general idea. But please don't think like this is the end all be all or whatever the hell that term is. Be all end all of like, ew, if they have this, you can't play Ana. No. Anyways, I'm not gonna waste any more time. Okay. Ana versus Ana. Come on. Neutral, skill dependent, easy. Ashe, as an Ana, you don't necessarily counter an Ashe. Ashe doesn't necessarily counter you. I will say at really long ranges, no, I still wouldn't categorize it as counter, but you could poke her out because she has fall off damage at a closer range now, especially since the recent nerf. So I'm just gonna put this one in here. I am gonna say 90% of these will probably be skill dependent because Ana isn't really like a hero that you pick to counter anybody in particular. Baptiste also quite neutral. If they have a BAP and they're in a lamp, like they're in the immortality field, the only skill dependent thing there is trying to land a big group anti-nade. But other than that, you just kind of poke him in the distance. He pokes you. I would argue that BAP has better against Ana, and like you don't counter BAP at all, just because he can regen burst and then poke you safely. And then if you get damage as an Ana, you have to like nade yourself or have the other support back you up. But I mean, most supports don't counter other supports, so we'll keep it there. Bastion, theoretically. Again, everything is in theory. I also spelled dependent wrong. Jesus. Everything in theory that Ana does counter Bastion. If he sits still, Sleep Dart is the easiest way to take him out for 5 seconds. If not, you know, capitalize on him, jump on his ass. Nading him as well will help your team capitalize. But of course, if he has all these shields hugging his ass, it'll be tough to get around. But whenever like teams run a Bastion composition on Junkertown offense, I just sit up top. And I go for these like anti-nades around the shields. But theoretically, Ana counters most of what Bastion does. Brig, pretty neutral still. If you do anti a Brig, it is quite powerful. But if Brig has a rally up, your anti-nade doesn't help you against the armor. Like the armor will still build up. So it's still pretty neutral. It's, Doomfist. I think a lot of Doom mains would say that Ana counters her. Any sort of CC counters Doomfist. And Ana has tools to survive his combo by nading himself quickly. Like if he slams you, you can nade, and he uppercuts, you can splash a nade off of him or splash a nade on the ground if he hits you in the seismic. So you can survive his combo, number one. And number two, the Sleep Dart can end his combo really easily. You can sleep him during the punch, the slam, the uppercut. Good opportunities to do it. I would say Ana's like, quote unquote, a counter. D.Va does not counter. D.Va is very good against Ana. I hate playing Ana against good D.Vas. Like, you do not counter D.Va at all in any capacity. D.Va, if she eats any of your sleeps or your nades, like she eats all the things that make you good, your shots, your nade, your sleep, all get eaten by a good D.Va, so it doesn't counter. In theory, Ana counters all the flying heroes, which would be Pharah and Echo. I'm just going to throw them both up here. Even if you don't kill Echo or Pharah, you can pressure for 70 damage in the sky with no fall off damage, especially because the hit scans just got nerfed in the recent patch with McCree, Soldier, all that stuff. You are actually pretty good at, you know, if they don't have a pocket, you can 3-tap them in the sky. They don't have natural cover. They have to fall down from the sky. You can just stop them from doing everything above and holding pressure up top by just shooting them once or twice. 3 times to kill them. They don't have a pocket, but 1 or 2 shots, honestly, good enough to get them out of the sky and stop doing what they're good at. So I would say that's pretty good. Genji, still kind of skill dependent. It's very tough to hit the Sleep Dart for the most of the average players. The higher ranks, it's pretty easy to sleep the blade. Like I think most good Anas can get it half the time, but it is skill dependent. If the Genji is really skilled, he actually times the deflect much better. With a nade, you need the good skill to kind of dodge the deflect. You can splash the nade against the deflect, but this one's very skill dependent for Ana versus Genji. Ball, I would say Ana counters in a sense that if you sleep his, like while he's going for a pile drive, he loses almost all his effectiveness. The sleep dart, CC is a ball's worst enemy. So like if they have a ball, Ana's not terrible to play against it because yeah, A, sleep dart, B, you can nade to survive. You can also nade to clear mines. Like if you get slammed up and there's mines below you, you can actually throw the nade on the ground really quickly before you land to clear it for you. So that's pretty good. Hanzo, sniper versus sniper is skill dependent, but honestly, if I don't have a shield in front of me and I'm scoped in against the Hanzo, I lose the duel every time. So it's still kind of skill dependent. You kind of just don't really challenge him to the point where like he's not really a counter because you're playing so far in the back as an Ana, and Hanzo has different play styles, but you typically don't challenge a Hanzo. Junkrat's neutral. It's not like you hard counter him and he doesn't hard counter you in any sense. Same concept. They don't really like fight each other, if that makes any sense. Lucio, depends how good the Lucio is. So it's more skill dependent than anything. If the Lucio has really good movement, he can read your sleeps and dodge, but you know, you can get a pretty easy nade off on him if he goes really aggressive, but he might just stay really high up in the sky. I don't know. This one's, I'll just keep this in the middle. McCree doesn't counter anymore. The extra 25 HP that McCree got suddenly made this matchup 10 times harder than it has to be, since you can't 3-shot combo him anymore with shot, nade, shot. One shot from Ana to 70, nade to 70, shot to 70, McCree lives. That 25 HP he has gives him the edge on the damage breakpoints, which makes him so hard to challenge at the distance. If he even just pressures you with one body shot or a headshot, you almost have to nade yourself. At close range, you'll never win because he has flashbang. I would just say no. Mei. No, I would say it doesn't counter Mei at all. I mean, a good Mei, if she ever gets close to you, you're like almost dead 99% of the time because she starts freezing you, slowing you. All you can do is nade yourself. You have to accept being frozen. If you're frozen, you're dead. And then if you try to react to the sleep dart, if she's good, she can reactively ice block and block it. She has tools to mess your kit up more than you can mess hers. Like you don't have a speed boost to get over all anything to kind of break slows, nothing. So I would say it doesn't counter. Mercy, still kind of skill dependent on the Mercy and how she plays. But like, I mean, if a Mercy is flying in the sky, can you pressure her a little bit? You can make her play a little uncomfortably. You could argue that quote unquote counters a Mercy in a way, similar to the fact that she might be attached to a flying hero. You can pressure her out of the sky and make her fly uncomfortably. I mean, it's not like Mercy's really fighting you, so that's why I would keep it neutral. But unless she's in Valk and in a pistol, you should have more tools to beat her. And then in the situation where she has Valk and she decides to 1v1 you, then she'll probably beat you. But honestly, I'll just keep it neutral because it's not like not as hard of a counter as when you look at these heroes when you look and compare it to Mercy. Moira, no, it doesn't really counter Moira. It's pretty hard to sleep a coalescing Moira. That's like the biggest counter you can have to a Moira, which is actually no, I'll keep it neutral. I take it back. Hard to sleep and coalescence to cancel, but outside of that, anti-nading, not the Moira, but anti-nading the enemy team neutralizes Moira, like what makes Moira good, which is her like raw healing potential, group healing. So it's not necessarily, it counters like what Moira does best, which is healing her team. If you're just talking about a strict 1v1, Moira actually ends up beating most heroes in this game in a 1v1 because she can fade the anti-nade. And she's really hard to sleep because she can actually fade it if she sees a sleep coming. She can fade both the sleep coming and fade the anti-nade effect. Hard to sleep while she's moving super fast and Cole. Has a lot of self-sustain in a 1v1 specifically, if that makes any sense. In a 1v1, you don't win. Everything outside, where if you land the nade, then yes, you counter what Moira does best. But because there's two extremes of counter doesn't counter, we can just put it in the middle because it's still dependent on if you hit that nade on the team. If. So I'll just keep it neutral. Neutral. Yes, it's very hard to like play against these shields. But Unless she has a shield against a wall every time, you can splash nade it. If versus played with another shield, like a Sigma or a D.Va, then it just doesn't counter, because it's so hard to get nades off against Orisa comps. But if she's playing alone, like Orisa by herself, you can get around nades, but that is very skill dependent on your skills in Ana for the splash nades, and you have to time the sleeps against the fortify and the new. It's very situational, and because Orisa is commonly paired with either a D.Va or another shield like Sigma or Ryan, for that reason, I might just put on not counter. It's, yeah, in most situations, the shield is just a giant crutch. And she can halt me, and like, even if she fortifies, even if I anti her, the fortify just makes her so tanky to get around. Like, I, as an Ana, don't have enough shield pressure to pressure this Orisa shield. I'll just put doesn't counter for that reason. This one's skill dependent. It honestly just depends whether he Wraith forms a sleep dart. If the sleep is out, then he wins. If you sleep the Reaper, he's literally forced to run. So, I mean, yeah, this one's just skill dependent. This one's all dependent on the sleep dart and for that skill. Like everything else, yeah, it depends on the sleep, but there's also other tools to help, if that makes any sense. Reinhardt, also kind of skill dependent. If he's front facing you, it's tough. If you can somehow get around his angles and you play like a really cheeky Ana angle, then you can kind of like quote unquote counter him, because you can sleep him like when he's not looking at you, or it's very hard to sleep mid fire strike. You can't time that shit. You can sleep and do stuff easily when his shield is broken, but a good Ryan with good skill probably wouldn't let that happen. And then Ryan could just walk up and shatter you from across. Like, you'd have to time the sleep very well if you're trying to time it in between his shield jumps and stuff. Too skill dependent to say anything. Hog, easy. You can put it on counter. A lot of your Ana tools counter Hog in like every way. Like way harder counter than like Ball. If we were to order this from the top, like nade and sleep mess up his healing. The whole Hog gets messed up by the sleep dart. If he hooks someone, there's a lot of downtime before like he can get the follow-up shot, so it's an easy sleep dart there. You just get a lot of tools to mess him up. So for that reason, I put him on counter. Sigma, probably skill dependent. Almost not counter. You have to get through the shield. Same concept as Orisa. You have to get around the shield, and you have to get around his suck. And then if his suck is down, the kinetic grasp, and his shield is probably back up. And he can shield dance if you try to get around him. The only counter or skill thing you can do is like sleep the flux, his gravitic flux, which is very hard to hit. Like, let's say most people will hit this like less than 50% of the time. So this one's like in between, pretty much doesn't counter. I don't know. There's too much to worry about, like with Sigma. Soldier, still kind of neutral. You can obviously nade him in his biotic field, make him run, and then from a distance, and even against most hit scans, Ana can just, it's pretty neutral, pretty skill dependent. You can pressure them with that 70 damage, no fall off damage snipe, and then they kind of get pressured out, or they could shoot you a little bit. They pressure you to nade yourself. Skill dependent. Sombra, also skill dependent. Like, if you sleep the EMP, amazing value. If she jumps you, you're almost forced to nade yourself, but you can shoot her once or twice to force her to translocate out. Just depends on the skill matchup here. Symmetra, honestly, doesn't counter. I find it hard to, like, Symmetra's pretty good against most Ana comps. I mean, also skill dependent, because if you nade like a positional TP, like if the entire enemy team takes TP and you get a big nade, it's like you just wipe, you just free win. But like in a strict 1v1, like, I don't know, Symmetra has 225 HP now. You guys always forget. McCree has the extra 25 HP. Symmetra does too. So the 3-shot damage breakpoint is gone. And she has like natural shield health, like the blue health, which allows her to regenerate. If I leave her sleeping for 5 seconds from a corner and I don't do any damage to her for a while, she actually starts healing herself a little bit while she's sleeping on the ground, which changes the breakpoint even more. And then she turret bombs me in the back. I'm like always forced to nade myself, even if she doesn't take it. And her wall, you guys saw a match earlier that I played today on Route 66 where that sim wall completely just messed up my how I wanted to play Ana. I'm on one side and I couldn't make it to the other. My team's fighting on the other side. It's just GG. Like if I'm playing Brig against Sim, I can like pack people, or if I'm playing Moira, or sorry, not more like Moira orbs or like Mercy healing or Zen orbs, I can heal through the wall, but like that sim wall messes me up so hard. I'm gonna keep it on doesn't counter. Torbjorn, I'm also gonna put he doesn't really counter. Even if you anti-nade him, he can still pop his overload, and he still gets all that extra armor in a 1v1. You got to deal with this turret that's always shooting you. In a 1v1, you just don't win against this guy. He's pretty easy to sleep though, because his hitbox is really good. But he's just annoying as an Ana, because you're not like a Zen or something where you can like 5 orb his turret. His turret, if he's playing in his turret LOS, you're donezo. And if he molten cores and he throws his kumis all over you, like if you're Lucio, yeah, you can fly out there. You can probably wall ride and get out of danger. If he surrounds you in the kum, like you got nowhere to go, man. Like Mora can fade out, Mercy can fly away from the kum, Lucio can wall ride out, but Ana, no mobility. It's over for you. Tracer is skill dependent. Honestly, it just depends on if she gets if she can force you to nade yourself. If she can blink to react to your sleep. If I'm an Ana, sometimes I beat up the tracers because the shot nade melee kills, but sometimes the tracer forces my nade because she plays her distance and spacing correct. This is all just super skill matchup. Widowmaker, also skill dependent. If it's a 3 tap on the Widow and it's no fall off damage, I usually don't challenge Widows at my elo in top 500. Unless I have cover or I'm just feeling really cheeky and I'm like, oh, you know, I'm in their head, I'm mentally booming them. Like I just challenge them and sometimes I win. I probably challenge them more often than I should. Realistically, if I wanted to get better, like clean up my play, I probably shouldn't. But I do it a lot if I have a shield. I'll tell my Reinhardt and my shield tanks to be like, hey, hold the shield for me. I'm gonna challenge this Widow, but it is just skill dependent for that reason. Monkey, honestly, skill dependent. I would say almost doesn't counter if he gets everything correct, but because like it's just dependent on where he drops the bubble when I go for the sleep. When he primals, is he like jiggling a little bit? Can I dodge that? He can bubble dance and the bubble is hard to break through. It's really annoying. This is all just about the sleep. If the sleep dart doesn't hit, like it just doesn't counter at all, okay? Doesn't counter if I miss sleep dart. If I hit sleep dart, that's the skill dependent part, then he kind of gets owned. If I sleep the primaling Winston, my McCree High Noon's dead. If I sleep him as he's engaging, my team can probably collapse on him. He's dead. But if sleep not hitting, if sleep doesn't hit, else you don't counter him. The bubble's just too much to go through. I mean, you don't really counter Zarya. You can't beat her in a 1v1. The bubble cleanses your anti nades effects. Only thing that can get rid of it. So I mean, not much to do against this. If you get grabbed, you're probably dead. It just doesn't really counter. Zen, it's just neutral. It's not like he really counters you and you don't really counter him. You're kind of just shooting him in the... He's playing so far in the back line. You're playing so far in the back. There's nothing you can do. If he's caught out, like, I mean, he's probably going to die anyways. It's not really, like, dependent on you. Like, if he plays his spacing right and you play your spacing right, this matchup doesn't happen too often unless it's, like, the tail end of a team fight. Yeah, I mean, you counter his transcendence with the anti-nade, sure. But outside of that, that's like a very specific situation, if that makes any sense, right? It's the same concept with Moira. Like, you counter what Moira does by just simply hitting an anti-nade. But that's like, if you hit anti-nade, and then Sleep Dart doesn't really do anything in Transcendence. But like in these scenarios, Sleep and Nade, Sleep and Nade, Sleeps, Nades, and Primary Fire Shots, Sleep, Nade, Primary Fire Shots. Like Sleep and Nade, Sleeps and Nades here. Like these guys, like most of your tools work even outside of those specific situations against, which is why I categorize these as counters. I categorize these as skill dependent or neutral because they're very situational and dependent on skill. And doesn't counter is usually the reserve for stuff. It's just too much to worry about. It's just, yeah, that's the basic rationale. And yeah, that's basically what does Ana counter tier list. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe for more tier list content and yeah.